For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. I've said on this show many times that I don't care for kids. I've never liked kids. I honestly... When I was a kid, I didn't even want to be a kid. Like, I enjoyed having conversations more with adults. I really got along better with adults when I was a kid. I was doing job placements in high school. So basically, it wasn't like, okay, there was the option that you could do job shadowing, which was I can go to a workplace. Let's say I wanted to be a lawyer or, a dental hygienist or some, whatever you want, a plumber or something. So you could, there was an opportunity that if you were a good student and you could basically afford to miss a day of class, you could go and experience, well, not experience, but observe, I guess would be the word, what it's like to do that job. And so because I knew that I wanted to be a writer, I was writing from the time I was, I don't know how old I was. I wasn't even double digits in age yet, and I was going up to we would have a family get-together, and I would go up to my aunt and uncle's computer room that they had, and we didn't have a computer at the time at home. Very few households had a computer. You had to have a lot of money, you had to have decent money to have a computer. So I would go. I was always the youngest in our family, so I would go, and everybody else was playing and doing whatever, and I didn't care for hockey or whatever that my cousins or my brothers were doing. So I would go and I would write stories. I would just write short stories. I remember the very first one that I remember writing was about a roller coaster. I just described it going up and up and up and up and up, and then down and around. And so I was kind of writing about a theme park, and that was it, and then I had them connect their printer, because that was also something that wasn't always connected at the time. The printer was up in the closet on a shelf, and you would, because it was just so big too, right? So my uncle would go and he'd, bring it down and plug it in, and then it was that big, see, people who are older are going to understand this more. It was the big printer that had like and then it would go back, and it would, and it had the coiled paper. I can't remember what that's called. Definitely wasn't like the paper that you have now in a printer. Do you remember that used to be considered the good paper? Like when I was in elementary school, and that was like the expensive, the nice paper. You had to be really careful not to, I don't know, if you were drawing something or painting or whatever, you did not want to ruin that paper. That was the good paper, and not just that stuff that was in a box. Do you remember that? You'd have the box of paper on the floor, and then it would feed on those little coils on the side, and it would just be pulled through. That's the kind of printer that my uncle had. So anyway, I would enjoy spending time with adults more. I didn't really like hanging out with kids. Now that I'm trying to think, was my uncle my age? My uncle would have been younger at the time. I was going to say, now that I'm my uncle's age, he was at the time, I can't stand kids. Now, here's the deal. I'm going to tell you why coming up in the next segment. But as a non-parent to humans, right? We have, my husband and I have 2 dogs. But as a non-parent, it's fascinating to me to watch parents non-parent. And what I mean by that, and you already know what I'm talking about, is the parents that are just sitting and looking down at their phone while they're out for lunch or whatever with their kids, and the kids are not even, they know that their parents aren't paying attention to them. I went to my nephew's, it was a hockey game, I think it was. Hockey or soccer, whatever it was. And I remember saying to my sister-in-law, so my nephew's mom, I remember saying to her, none of these parents are even watching the game. They're all just staring at their phone. It was so bizarre to me. It was kind of like, well, are you just here because you had to drop off your kid? Then why did you bother staying? And that would be the most discouraging thing. If I'm the kid on the field or the rink, hockey, if I was the kid playing, I'd know where my parents were sitting, right? And I'd be looking up all the time. Hey, did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that? How, like, that's just a kick in the face to then, be looked up, and your parents just, have their heads down in their phones the whole time. Like, and just on that subject too, I was at the mall yesterday actually, and I was just taking a break, relaxing my legs, and there was a couple that was, they had two kids with them, but the adults were holding hands and eating at the same time, holding one hand, and they were eating, and then when they finished eating, they were scrolling on their phone with the other hand. So you're holding hands with each other, not acknowledging, not even paying attention to each other. Your kids were trying to entertain each other, right? They were trying to, but it's like the parents were just totally clued out. So this, I think, is exactly why kids are the way they are. And that's what I'm going to lead into in the next segment, because I was at a charity event. Now, I have to be careful about how I discuss this, because I've been involved with this organization for a very long time, and if I start calling them out and naming them, there's going to be trouble. So I will be speaking in general statements, and, so we won't be able to determine, which organization I'm talking about or any other specifics. So I'll be speaking in general terms to protect people, including myself, coming up in the next segment on the Scribble right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
JB here on the Scribble. All right, so I have been a media guest. I've been an invited guest to for a children's charity event that it's similar to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, where the kids can have like a day of whatever it is that they want to do. So there's an organization that I've produced programming for and content or whatever for a better part over a decade anyway. And so this year we go to a very famous amusement park for a day, and we have a good time. The kids go, and so what I do is I interview them, and you just do a bunch of fun stuff with them. So, and then I produce content for the organization. So it's usually very simple, straightforward. I get the email a couple months ahead of time. We'd love to have you. Great. I mean, it's a fun time, because we make it a fun time, right? I don't have to like kids to do something like this, but it's just, why not, right? And it's also content for our company as well. It's business, so I stay involved. Over the years, though, I've made an observation about the kids as part of this day. It used to be where you had either an illness, or you had just some kind of, I don't want to say down on your luck kind of story, but basically, that's what it was. What's the politically correct way to say it nowadays, right? Hardship, I guess, might be the word. Well, now, though, it's basically turned into, we can't afford to do this on our own, so let's just, let's just go to this charity and they'll pay for this, experience, basically, is what it is. You kind of just have to plead poverty in a sense. And so I've seen it change over the years. And again, I still participate because, they invite me, and I just, and it's charity. And so, why not? So what happened, though, this year was they put me in charge of a group of kids. Now, I have never done that before, never wanted to do it before. And it caught me off guard because I did not find out until the morning of. I was basically handed a clipboard and told, here you go. Now, the thing with this is that, some of the kids will have medications or allergies or whatever it is, so you're basically taking on a role of, a babysitter, a nanny, a teacher in a sense, I guess. And so I was just kind of like, yeah, no, little Joey needs his pills at 1:30, Sally needs hers at 2. This kid can't be near oranges. This one has restless leg syndrome, so don't have him sitting on the plane too long. He's going to have to get up and walk. And I just kind of thought, yeah, no, not doing. I'm the radio guy. Like, I don't. Yeah, no, it's not happening. I'm not doing that. No, because I just thought that's a little bit more than I signed on for. That's I've never done it before. I don't know where this came from. So through the course of some conversations and then a check back in emails, I found that yes, it was indeed miscommunication, because I got the casual invitation by email from somebody who's been involved, and I love her. She's been involved with that organization from the beginning. So when it comes from her, I say yes because she's wonderful. The team that she works with is great. I have a great time with them, so I say yes. Then I get a formal invitation, this from the one of the executive people at the organization. And I believe it's a volunteer role, so it's not like she's some big, CEO of the Humane Society or Red Cross or something like that. Nah, this is, no, that's not the case. And so I ended up looking back after this. We had this dispute, and she had said, I'm happy to invite you as a group leader. And so, not reading it, because why would I think that anything has changed? Because we've always had the understanding that this is what I'll do for the organization, and, there we go. So I guess technically, yes, it was said, and I technically, yes, agreed to it, but, again, anybody who knows me, and even the people who have been involved there for as long as I have, are just kind of like, yeah, that's weird. It seemed weird that you would have agreed to that. And I said, well, there we go. So I didn't. But now it's literally like 2 hours before, blast off, and I just said, you guys have to figure out something, because I'm not doing it. I'm just not. Sorry. I have no interest in doing that. So it was kind of a sort of a dispute where I, at one point, basically said, I can leave right now. Like, I can go home. And let me also just point this out, too. I fly in for this event. So I basically fly in to back home, because that's where this is happening. And then I get back on the plane with all of these people. And then I go back to exactly where I just came from in the United States. Yeah, can you believe that? So I go to LAX. I hop, because I live in West Hollywood. I go to the airport, which is a good 45 minutes or whatever. I fly back to Canada just to do this. I get to Canada a few hours before, so I barely have any time to sleep. And then I come back to the airport, and we do this excursion where I fly to Los Angeles, even though I was just there, 12 hours earlier, and do this whole experience. And then I go back to Canada to end off the, adventure. And then I come back to Los Angeles after. Did you catch that? I go from Los Angeles to Canada, Canada to Los Angeles to Canada, then Canada to Los Angeles. All in a matter of 3 days. So I'm traveling more than a flight attendant after all this. So I took issue with that, because I thought, that's not what I agreed to. Maybe that's what in theory, but no, that's not what I'm doing. So they ended up arranging it so that somebody else was going to be the group leader, and I would just kind of stay with this group. Now, again, it's really weird, because if you're a media personality and you're trying to get, interviews with kids and pictures, whatever, it's very bizarre to stick you with just one group, because there's 100 and some kids that are doing this. So why would I be limited? Why would I be restricted just to stay with this, one group? So it wasn't always like that, but it's changed in recent years. And so this new executive, she's only been in charge for a short time. She hasn't been around in that role, just for the past, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years. So we have this kind of tiff, if you want to call it that, at the airport. And so she's like, well, I'll figure it out. And I said, yeah, you will. So I go, and I'm just with this group of kids, because the kids are there, the parents are excited, and, everybody's kind of waiting for this whole thing to kick off. And everybody's coming to me because I'm the leader, and I'm having to tell these people, we're changing that. That's, it was incorrect. That's not exactly what's happening, but just kind of stick with me. So I'm going to tell you exactly why I hate kids. This was a prime example this time around as to why I hate kids. Now, yes, there's always going to be the one or two that misbehave and, act up, because it's sensory overload when you're at, this giant, amusement center. So we're at the airport, and also too, I mean, I gotta say, you really can figure out why the kids are the way they are when you meet the parents. Do you know what I'm saying? You get where I'm going with this? Because that's okay. I see why he's like that. Okay, yeah, I see how the parents are acting. Because some of them are just classless. Some of the people that are doing this, and so there's a level of entitlement that some of them have, as though that they deserve this. Their kid is, and it's like you're just underprivileged. Truthfully, like that's really kind of what you applied because you can't afford it. There's really nothing that's, why all of a sudden is there now these demands and things that so. Anyway, so I meet the group of kids, and one of them I could see almost right off the bat was kind of not great at listening. So we are at the airport and we're going through security. Now, even adults are intimidated by airport security in some instances, right? You don't want to say the wrong thing because, all of a sudden, you're going to be pulled aside and double-checked and screened and probed or refused, boarding, whatever it is. There's any number of things. So people, for the most part, are on their best behavior because you don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to do the wrong thing. You would just want to get on the plane, go to where you're going, and that's that. So we're up in security. You take off your shoes and blah, 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 blah. And so we're waiting to go through customs. And this kid is, the ropes they have at like banks or at a coffee shop or something, those ropes that you kind of wind around to control the line. He's flicking the rope and going underneath it and almost knocking down one of the little poles that it's on. And I just kind of thought, here we go. Like, we haven't even left yet. So, you say to the kid, let's just, stand still, be very good, right? We don't want to draw attention to ourselves, don't want to get in trouble because those guys sitting over there at the computers, they're the ones who can go and say, sorry, kid, we just don't want you in our country. We just, we can't quite do it. And so when you put it like that, basically saying like, this guy's a police officer. He's essentially a police officer, right? At the customs border agents are essentially police officers. So you say that to the kid. I would have been terrified if I was 10 years old and my parents said to me, that guy sitting right there is an officer of the law. You piss him off, you're not going. That's the end of it. We're all going, and you're somehow stuck back here. You're damn well I would have behaved and smartened up. But I would have anyway, just because that was my parents telling me, right? Now, the thing with this, though, is that the parents don't come. So it's kind of like these kids are just sort of thrown in with a group of babysitters, essentially. That's kind of what it is. So, we're standing there, the kid's not listening, and oh my God. So we get to the counter, the kiosk, whatever you call it, and the guy takes passports, and he says to the kid, you just remove your hat. The kid doesn't take off the hat. He turns it to the side. And the guy says, no, all the way off. The kid turns it backwards now. And I thought, wow. 10 years old. I don't remember how old he was. Our kids were between 9 and 11. So let's say he was 10. Just, let's go in the middle. And I'm thinking, at 10 years old, he's already not listening to a police officer. This is crazy. And again, let me just, he's a border agent. I'm just using the term police officer because that's what a kid will understand, right? A kid's going to understand police officer versus a U.S. Border Patrol agent. Okay? So police officer, that's what we're going with. And I guess they are, really. So I just kind of thought, oh my God, you're going to make this guy, and it's a charity event too. So it's not like the kid's going to get kicked off. I mean, come on, but anyway, you want to prove a point. Like, this is an authority figure. Listen to what he's telling you. So I ended up just going and taking the hat off the kid. Just grabbed his hat. Said, there we go. Let's get the picture in. And that's all we go. There we go. It took literally 5 seconds, not even. So then we go and they have the flags. There was a picture of Donald Trump, because you're entering the United States at that point, right? So there's the little bit of a shrine to the country. And so there were 2 other adult volunteers with me. And so we said, okay, let's get the kids in front of the flags and, let's do a picture of this. Their first time going to the United States. Sure as shit. This kid is, flicking the flag, rolling up in it. And I just thought, oh my God, it's going to be a day. It's going to be a day. Going to be a day. So finally, eventually, and then there's also pictures where he's puffing out his cheeks and squatting and, just doing, it's like, can you just take a regular fucking picture? Like, truthfully, it's 3:30 in the morning at this point. Okay? We're not talking like this is noon This is barely awake time, is what it is. So we go through. Okay, let's get onto the plane. There's a lineup, of course, to get onto the plane, as there always is with any plane, any commercial, public plane. But this plane is reserved just for our group. So we get onto the plane. I have to sit with this nightmare of a kid, and he says to me, before we even took off, he's complaining he wanted the headset to listen to the TV. And I said, you just have to wait because they come around with that. Now, I understand if you've never been on a plane before, especially if you're a kid, you don't know how it works. So that's why I'm educating him. I want apple juice. You have to wait until we take off. And there's this certain, you're not the only one on the plane, right? They've got a whole bunch of people that are coming on right now. They don't bring the beverage cart until, it's a good 20 minutes even into a flight. It doesn't come out right away. And the headphones, eventually they come around, 5 or 10 minutes later. But just relax, fuck, seriously. So, I'm sitting there and just kind of like, if I just stop engaging, because normally I'll chat with them and kind of get them excited and what do you want to see? Like, who do you want to meet? What rides do you want to go on? I was trying not to talk to this kid as much as possible. So then he said to me, why didn't we get first class? I had nothing to, I'm sitting there going, what? Seriously? I said, well, what do you mean? Well, why didn't we get the seats up at the front? Why didn't we get first class? I said, what's wrong with where we are? Well, they've got bigger TVs. And I said to him, you're not even watching the TV. You're hitting me every 2 minutes to say something or complain about something. So what's you're not even using the TV. Really, what are you expecting? A 40-inch TV on the plane where you're like, and so then I said to him, this entire trip, this whole thing is first class. You didn't pay for any of this. This is all, donors and volunteers and, corporations donating things. So the whole day is first class. Let's just be very clear on that. You're not going to be an ungrateful kid with me. I'm sorry. What you're experiencing today, now I'm just telling you this as a listener. I'm not saying that I told this to the kid. What you're experiencing today would cost the average person thousands of dollars, right? Think about that. You're flying from one country to the next. You're getting to this amusement facility park. It's very expensive to go there, even just for one day. You would have, and you wouldn't really do that for one day anyway, right? You would end up staying, 2 or 3 days. You'd have a hotel, you'd have car rental or shuttle or whatever it is. It would cost one person easily $1,000 to do what we're doing. Easily $1,000 for this one day. And you're going to complain that your TV isn't big enough. That's your biggest concern. That's your gripe. So I wasn't quite sure how to take that. I just wasn't sure if this is his way of just making conversation or just finding something to complain about. Maybe it's excitement, but he doesn't know how to convey that, So I was just like, yeah, no, this whole thing. And, whatever. So then the breakfast comes through. They've got a choice of 2 or 3 different kinds of breakfasts. He took one, it's a little plastic container. He took one. Didn't really eat anything from it at all. And then when they came to collect the garbage, I said to him, well, did you want to take the granola bar or the yogurt or the something else? I can't remember if it was apple slices or there was something else in it, but there was a bunch of things in it. No, he didn't want anything. All right. Okay. But I asked him, right? We give him the opportunity. Last call on this before it's thrown out. Nope, throw it out. Oh, and there was a block of cheese or something too with some crackers. So he's again just and then he's touching the other kid's screen and stopping the kid's video and flicking his ears and raising up the shade of the window shade up and down, up and down, up and down. And again, it's just settle the fuck down. Seriously. Now, this is where you can say, well, if you're impatient, why? I'm there to be a media guest. I'm not there to be the babysitter. You see why I did not want that role and why I never would have agreed to it. There we are. Case in point, folks. So we land, we don't go through the airport terminal. The plane comes up to the back of the airport or whatever you want to call it. The stairs come to the plane. We get on these shuttle buses and then we go to Disney. So now he's again complaining about, how long is it? How long is it to Disney? It's just like, oh my God, shut up. Just relax, just settle down. So it's however long it is from the bus ride from the airport to Anaheim is 40 minutes or something. Other kids are excited. Some of them are kind of singing. I can hear the kid behind me in the row in the bus, just bitching and complaining. And then I could hear the other kid that he's sitting beside saying, ow, stop. So clearly he was poking him, hitting him, flicking him, whatever. I don't know. And so then we get to the park, the amusement center, and there's a lot of walking. You go through security first, and then there's a whole big like strip of stores and restaurants and different little shops and things. And then you get into the actual area where there's the amusement, rides and things like that. But before we get in there, we have to go off to the side to this little meeting area, and there's all these like concrete picnic tables. And we have to go and we have to meet with some of the people from the facility. And we're, all of our groups are kind of sitting together. And as soon as we get there, the kid that I was just describing goes and jumps and sits right on the concrete picnic table. Right on the table. Feet on it, just, and I said to him, all right, so let's just come down. We don't sit on, do you sit on tables at home? Stupid question, because he probably would have said yes. So I just said, let's just come down. You know what, everybody, you can sit on the bench, or you can stand, or you can sit on the ground, whatever, but we don't sit on tables here. We just don't. So it took a couple times of telling him. Again, you're just so tempted to just grab him by the arm and just, pull him down, but not your kid. So he got up again. And I said, what did we just say? Like, there's three of us adults here. What did we just say to you? Don't do it. Do you see any other kids climbing on the furniture and, acting like this? No, you don't. So then there's some trees that are in the area, and of course they're in the ground, but there's concrete all around. So they have like that little kind of like metal fencing around it that's like maybe a foot tall. It almost looks like a grate or something. So he's standing on that and he's walking around. Well, somebody from the actual facility comes over. Excuse me, can you please get down? Yeah, like let's don't climb on that. You don't want to get hurt. Again, took him about 2 or 3 times before he actually stopped doing it. So he comes down, and then I was sitting there the whole time at the table, and then behind me was kind of this row of like shrubs or bushes or something. I don't know what it was. They had like little red flowers on it. So then he's behind me, and I just hear, I look, he's just pulling all the leaves and the flowers and everything off the bush. And I just said, look, we're not destroying property here. I said, we haven't even entered the actual facility. And you're destroying property. You're not listening to the staff here. So it's going to be a really long day if we have to keep doing this. So then not even 5 minutes later, there's a thump behind me, and then a girl starts crying. Sure as shit, she was playing on the table. She was standing on the bench or something. I wasn't looking, so I don't know. Wham onto the ground. And so I looked at our kid. I said, that's why. That's why. I'm looking out for your safety, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, do I have to explain to the kid? No, I just have to say, don't sit on the table. That should be enough, you'd think, right? That should be enough. So I have him stop shredding the bush, stop standing on the furniture. So we eventually then get to the lineup where we'll now go into the amusement center, facility, park, whatever you want to call it. And again, the lineup. And so I just said to him, because he was being such a little asshole, I said, here's what we're going to do. So every time I or one of these other adults here have to tell you something a second time, we go on to an automatic 5-minute timeout. And so what that means is we stop where we are. Either that's the entire group or just you. And we'll catch up with the rest of the group. But we stop for 5 minutes. And we'll just stand in one spot, or we'll sit in one spot. But we're not going on rides. We're not doing anything. That 5 minutes. And if you act up during that 5 minutes, we tack on another 5. So we might be at the 3-minute mark. We're going to tack on another 5. So now it's 8 minutes of a timeout. I said, and do you know how long that's going to accumulate all day? You'll be lucky if you get on 2 or 3 rides. Seriously. That's what we're going to do. The timeout clock, I said, I've been here. I've done this for well over 10 years with the guy. This isn't my first time here. So if I don't go on the rides today, I'm just fine with that. Just fine. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Like, it's weird because, this is supposed to be an experience for them to have fun or whatever. Like, if you're a kid, why would you want to be acting like a little jerk all day and just getting in trouble, constantly getting in trouble, constantly? You'd think that you'd be behaving so that you can have more experiences. And so then, of course, one of the people says, well, it's attention. He wants to, whose name have we said the most today? It's his. And I just thought, but why would you want bad attention like that? That's not even, what's the, why? It doesn't make sense. So you're going to piss me off. That's fine. But I'm the one who's in charge of where we go and what we do here. So you're just depriving yourself of these opportunities and experiences. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. So we finally get in, and all the kids are excited, which is great, and we go on the first ride, and we have the front of the line access. We don't have to wait that 2 hours in line, so that was also really good. But even then, we still had about a 5-minute wait for some of the rides, and he's standing there, and again, flicking the ropes and, kind of moving things around, and there was a guy in front of us. At one point, he had a backpack on, and you know how you can have like your hand sanitizer kind of looped into the belt or the buckle or whatever of the loops of your backpack. So the guy had his hand sanitizer there, and the kid went and smacked it, and I just looked at him and I said, "Now you're not touching people. That's like, it's one thing if the boys are fooling around and flicking each other, whatever. I said you're not touching people here. You're just not. I said that's assault if you go and do something like that." And that's a crime. So we're stopping that right now. It's one thing to misbehave. It's another thing to now be in somebody's space and touching them and doing things. You're not, now it's serious. You're not doing that. You're not doing it. I mean, not to say that the adult man is going to turn around and, smack the kid or something, but you just don't do that. You just don't. And, so then there was another ride where, we were going, and the rule was you have to have an adult in the front, adult in the middle, and then one behind. So if you are not seeing an adult in front, one of our people, if you're not seeing one of us in front of you, you're too far ahead. Right? That's the thing. So that's kind of how we'd said. So one of us is in front. If one of us is not in front, then you need to turn around and you need to back up a little bit because you're going too far ahead. So, and then I also said, we'll get those leashes. You've seen kids on leashes at this place. So we go, and we're in the lineup, and he's the one, he was flicking the guy's thing, and then there was another time where he ran up ahead and basically cut in front of a couple who was there with their kids. So now he's basically standing in between the kids and then their parents who were behind them. And the parents are looking back at us, and we're all calling this kid, like, come back, no, get back over here. You're not cutting in front. And then you have to do that whole, oh, sorry. Like, it's like, no, first of all, we're not the parents. Let me be clear on this. This is not our kid. We're just, nope. We're wearing the charity shirts. It's like, he's not mine. Don't worry. So again, we have to say to him, and you have to remember, this is 3 adults basically giving him shit all day for not behaving. Again, like, why would you put yourself through it? Why? It's not worth, like, ugh. So now he wanted a snack, and we said, well, there's kind of like a designated time for snacks, and again, you picked the breakfast that you were going to have, and then you chose not to eat it, and then we asked you if you want to get any of those individual pieces as a snack or something for later, and you said no, so it was all thrown out. Unfortunately, you'll have to go hungry for a little bit. That's just kind of the way it is. I mean, we have these designated times where we figured out when we're going to do a snack, and then a lunch, and then a snack again. This is not one of the times. It's just not. Sorry that you're hungry, but you decided that. You made that decision. So we then go, and as we're walking, he turns, he's like, buy me a churro. Not even a, can you please buy me, or, is it okay if, no, just buy me one. Buy me one. And I said, well, that's not how the day works. I'm not just here to buy you things. I don't even have money here with me. So no. Then he starts acting up more and more and more, right? And I said, well, you know what? Then let's do our first timeout, because I'm just kind of already at that point now. So the kids, you guys are going to go on such and such ride, and I'll sit out here with so-and-so. Yep. I'll just sit here. That's fine. We're good. We'll do it. I'm okay with that. Yep. Ready? We're going to sit. Okay, good. Good times. Have fun on that ride, kids. Have fun. Yeah, we'll be here. Don't worry. We're not going anywhere. Guarantee you we're not going anywhere. So he kind of smartened up for a little bit. And then he did eventually behave for a little while. So then he was rewarded, which I always find that kind of stupid. So, like, because you behaved for 15 minutes, now I'm going to reward you with giving you food. I mean, how about you just stop being an asshole altogether and, have a fun time and not ruin it for others? So we do this, lunchtime comes around. He was actually kind of okay for lunch. But again, always in the lineups, or, touching kids and flicking their ears and doing stuff. And it's like, why do you have to touch people? Why do you have to touch them? It doesn't, like, just stop touching. It's just weird. Don't touch people. So, and then I said to the adults, by the way, I've done this for years, and it's at about 3:30 in the afternoon where they just start, then they turn. They're tired at this point. They're cranky. They just get evil. And sure as shit, at almost 3:30 on the dot, one of the women who was with us, she looked at her watch, and it was 3:30 exactly when two of them just kind of started to have this meltdown, right? If you've been to this place where I'm telling you, they make it seem like it's, it's so much fun for families, whatever. The people just look miserable. The parents don't look like they're having a good time. The kids are having meltdowns and screaming or whatever. So, after a certain point, the kids doing this for the day with us, it's just, they're done. And so he started to act up again. He was kind of, really being bad. And then, we got through it. But again, it was all day just saying, stop getting so close to people. Don't touch people's things. And it was later in the afternoon at this point. And again, he was starting to get mouthy. And I said, do you know in the 13 years I've been doing this, I have never encountered such a misbehaving, ungrateful little child who doesn't want to just have a fun time and an enjoyable experience. I said, never. Why don't you listen? Why aren't you doing what we say? I said, we have passed well over 1,000 people, hundreds and hundreds of kids. Have you seen any of them doing what you are doing here today? His response was, not all of us are A+ students. And I said, it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with respecting people and being appreciative of the opportunities that you're given. The reason why you haven't seen any other kids doing that is because they're focused on having a good time. They're not focused on how can I be a terror and make it a miserable time for everybody. And if anything, I said, do you notice that they're kind of really not hanging around you as much now because they either don't want to be associated with the trouble or they just want to have a good time and not hear adults lecturing them all day? They're making the right decisions. You are not. Well, sorry. I said, that's not going to do anything. Just behave. I don't understand why this has to be combative. Why does everything... I don't know. It was very weird to me. So then at one point, he wanted that kind of flavored, colored popcorn. It's kind of like rainbow. I don't know. It looks glossy. I don't know if it's candy or what it is. He wanted that. And so one of the adults with the group just went and bought it. And I said after, I'm like, wait a second. Why are we rewarding him? He's acting like a total shit. And now we're going just because he wanted something, we're going to get... No, how about we flip it around and say, again, back to the rewarding thing. How about if you behave for this one ride, for the lineup, for the duration of the ride, and to the time we get off, if we don't have to call your name or say something to you, then you can have some popcorn. But otherwise, it's not happening with me. So I had a bit of a disagreement with the other adults. And the others... So we had 4 adults eventually. The 2 of them agreed with me. It was the one who went and bought the popcorn. I was just like, yeah, no, not doing that again. So, fast forward now. So it's later in the afternoon. He was again just... I don't know that there was one ride that we ran on that he was not an asshole, doing something. So... End of the day, we all reconvene, and the organization wants to do a big group photo of everybody, of the kids, of the volunteers, of the people, at this experience. So they had just gone shopping moments earlier, and that was something they all wanted to do. They each got a gift card that they can go and buy something at one of the stores. And so I went with one kid who was a great kid. He was so enjoyable, and I felt you feel kind of weird because you're trying to bond with the entire group, but then there's this one who's just getting all the attention and not good attention, and so you're trying to focus on the others, but you're having to watch where this kid's running off to, right? So they all went and bought something. I didn't go with the nightmare. He went with one of the other adults, and we reconvened, and so we said, all right, so let's do this group photo thing. He's sitting on the ground in a huff, and he says to the woman, the adult, the woman, the adult who was with our group, this is what he said to you. I'm not kidding you. Why the fuck do I want to be in a photo with people I don't even know just to hang it on my wall? Yeah. Yep. Could you imagine? Could you imagine when you were 9 or 10 years old? I'm not even saying that to parents. I'm just speaking to an adult that way. Any adult. And yet, whether it's your teacher, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's a relative at a family get-together, could you imagine? What the fuck? Wow. And so there was a bit of irony because, he's Mr. Thug, he's Mr. Gangster, he's Mr., now he's F-bombing. And do you know what he's doing is he's sitting and he's on the ground, he's playing with the toy that he bought. Do you know what the toy was? Do you want to know what the toy was? This is a little light up bubble blower. Just a little blow up little wand that, you press the button, it lights up and the bubbles blow. So when I heard him, when he had that blow up, when he said that to the woman, I just went to him and I said, so here's what we're going to do. I said, you're going to pose for the fucking photo. And you can play with your little bubble wand like my little baby sister has when we're done the photo. Now, here's the thing, right? So when I've told this story to my staffers, they're like, you said... He went there with the language. So you know what? If that's the way that he's going to communicate and that's what he's going to recognize and that's what he's going to respond to, we've already gone 7-8 hours, well, even longer than that. I'd say almost 12 hours of him not listening to anything. So if that's the way he's going to communicate when times get tough, I'm going to go there. Damn right I am. Yep, I'm going there. Because you know what? It wasn't until that moment. This is absolutely true. And remember, I majored in communications. I know how to match people on how they're communicating. So he posed for the photo. Now, for just a brief moment, he was behaving and doing what he told. So now, was it because I used his language? I took the same tone because maybe I insulted him and said, "You're playing with a little girl toy, okay, Mr. Thug?" I don't know what it was. And I'm sure that if somebody from the organization is listening to this or somebody who was part of it, I might even get a phone call tomorrow and go, really? Yeah, you know what? Because here's the thing. He might be a kid and this might be, his day or whatever. You're not going to treat adults and use threatening language or anything like that. That's not okay. Oh, but you're the adult. You're that. Yeah, you know what? Fuck right off. Because I had to tolerate that. If this kid isn't going to be raised to have manners and decency and appreciation for things, then we got an issue. I am not the kid's punching bag. I am not gonna be talked to like that. Oh, but he's only 10 and you're in your 40s. Right, exactly. And when I was 10, there was no way I was gonna be speaking to somebody like that in their 40s, or even in their 30s, or perhaps even in their 20s. I was not talking like that. So you want to be a Mr. Big Shot, and all of a sudden, I think that was the first time I heard him say fuck. But if that's, now he's kind of, right now we're at 5 in the afternoon, and he's already past that tired point or whatever. There's still no excuse for speaking like that to an adult. Sorry, I don't care how tired you are. You're a kid. Don't use that language. And then if you're trying to do that as for shock value, which I think is probably why he did it, no, it's just not going to work. Sorry, I'm not, nope, not working on me anyway. So we do the fucking group photo, and we leave the amusement center, and then we go and we head back to the plane. And so on the bus back to the airport, I'm sitting there, and people are very tired at that point. So it wasn't very loud on the bus. All of a sudden, tapping on my shoulder from the seat behind me, and I just said, "Don't touch me." Because all day I've told you, don't touch people. You know my name. You can call my name. You can, somehow try to get my attention. But don't touch me. Don't touch me. So then he says to me, "Can our group leader, or do you have to sit with us on the plane?" And I said, "Yes." "I don't want you to sit with us. I want so-and-so." And he named somebody else who was on the trip. "I want so-and-so to sit with us." And he's talking from behind. And I just said, "So-and-so doesn't like you either." Seriously, I was done at that point. I was done. You're not abusing me. Sorry, I'm not going to tolerate it. You cannot expect, just because I'm the adult, you cannot expect me to be this kid's punching bag and tolerate this bullshit. It's not happening. And I'm not going to be like a tattletale and go, "Oh, this kid's really unruly." No, I'm in charge today. I'm in charge. So what I say goes. And if you don't like it, piss off then. Don't, keep your mouth shut and walk along with us. But you're not ruining this trip for people. You're not doing it. Sorry, you're not. So then we get on the plane and we go, and again, the same thing. He lost his headphones, so he's waiting for another headset, when they were coming around. And I was just done. Not acknowledging this kid anymore. I'm not talking. So we land, and I said to the other adults from our group when we landed, I said, I can't do it. I'm not spending more time with the kids, because there's sort of like a handoff at the end of the night. You kind of like, oh, the kids, oh, it was a good time. Oh, and you reunite the kids with the parents, and it's kind of, oh, it was great. We had a good time. I said, because you know what's going to happen is I'm going to end up saying something to the parents. Could you imagine that, right? When you're just, oh, so how was he? How was it? Well, it was good until he had that meltdown and started dropping F-bombs. Because if that was me, and I was the kid, at 10 years old or however old, and an adult said that to my parents, I would be scared shitless to go home, because I knew that I was going to be in trouble, right? I knew there was going to be a problem. Today's parents, totally different. They're likely going to side with the kid before they even know the full story, right? And they're going to go and say something to the organization. Oh, well, he was doing this, and oh, my kid said this and whatever, and I'm going to be the bad guy, even though I wasn't the nightmare, right? This is not... You talk to the other adult. Do I need to have witnesses now? Because it's going to be me versus what this kid says? I mean, I would hope... It didn't come to that, but I mean, I would hope the organization would have my back and be like, you know what? He's been around a long time. Sorry that your kid misbehaved and, was a nightmare for the group. But, we talked with the adults. We even talked with some of the other kids, and they all said the same thing about your little fuckhead. So, you know what? Thanks for coming. Don't reach out again. Just don't. So I did. I bolted as soon as we landed. I just said, great meeting you, gave them hugs. The adults gave I was like, yeah, I can't deal with this. I'm just not. And like I said, we've had years before where, you have the odd, bad kid. This was the worst. So the funny thing was that I had exchanged phone numbers with one of the guys, because we have a connection, because his wife works at, basically we have a connection with, his wife works at a place where I know people, and so that was kind of our connection. So we swapped phone numbers, because I said, yeah, I think I probably might even have pictures of your wife from this event or whatever. And so he's like, oh my God, that would be so funny, because I can go and show her and say like, hey, I met this guy. So we swapped phone numbers. I had my phone off for most of the day. And when I turned my phone on the next day, there was a text from him. And this is really funny too, because I clearly wasn't the only one feeling this way about the kid. Because it basically said, did you survive? And he had the kid's name, disaster, or Terror Day or something. Terror, Terror, Terror Day. Yeah, remember to send me that picture or whatever. And yeah, glad that you survived the demon child. That was the text from this other adult. Demon child, referring to the demon child in a text message. And I've never had that before. I've kept in touch with some of the volunteers, from email or whatever after, but this was the first time where it was kind of like, yeah, that was pretty fucked up. That was pretty crazy. And so now it kind of makes sense why they've been struggling to have volunteers, come and do this. And just because I thought, yeah, the ungratefulness, it was just so, it was just mind blowing. So that's where I look at that and go, this is the parenting. This is, the kids just, not listening to authority. This is the sense of entitlement. This is, this is just everything. And I don't know. Like I said before that I would never want to be a kid growing up today, just because of how, school is with in terms of, bullying or social media, bullying on social media. And then also too, I mean, the fact that your kids are going to be living with you for God knows how long now, because they're not going to be able to afford their own place, and rent is even more expensive than a house in some instances. So I have no interest in being a parent, never have had an interest in being a parent, but at the same time, I mean, if you're spending more time staring at your phone all day as an adult, as a parent, then it makes sense why your kids are the way they are. And I would sit there and go, that would be concerning to me as the parent who's raising them, because I know that at some point these kids are going to be in charge. So when I'm, in a senior's home, or I'm in a hospital, or I'm going to be whatever at a certain age, 50, 60 years old, these are basically, this is the generation that's essentially going to be kind of running the world. I mean, that's very unsettling for me. And then to know that I raised that, I'm contributing to that hooliganism, I would not, wow. So, I mean, I didn't, like I said, I didn't stick around, so I didn't meet the parents afterward. So I did meet the mom. I saw the mom. I encountered the mom in the morning before we left, but I did not see the families when we came back. But I just kind of thought, wow. And if I recall correctly, because like I said, I met a bunch of the parents, I'm pretty sure she was the one who was basically kind of hurrying us along because she wanted to go back home and sleep. Like, your kid's about to go on this crazy adventure for a day, and you're tired and you want to go home. Wow. You have some parents that are standing there, crying because they're going to miss their kids. They're nervous, they're scared, but they're excited at the same time. This one was, can you guys go now so I can go back home and sleep? Yeah. There you go. So to get a text message the next morning from one of the other volunteers, I'm laughing going, yeah, that was bad. He was just a nightmare of a kid. I don't know. You have to really, really like kids if you want to work in a daycare or be a teacher or something, something like that in childcare. No thanks. No, I'm good. I'm glad I have my husband. We've got our 2 dogs. The dogs listen to us, and we're going to take a break. I've got one more segment. I'm well over time. We're now headed to supersized Scribble territory because we're coming up to the 1 hour mark. But I have a theory about parenting, whether that's children or pets, a dog. I'm going to tell you about that coming up in the next segment right after this.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
JB here on The Scribble. So, just on the subject of parenting, because this is also something that I've experienced a few times. Now, years ago I wrote a newspaper column, and I don't remember what it was called, but the gist of it was basically kids should be scared of their parents. Kids and pets should be scared of their parents. And I got a bit of flack from it because, again, I identified as a non-parent in the column. And I started to make observations, right? Just like I was telling you about, at the food court or whatever, and, parents aren't paying attention to their kids or going to the soccer game and they're just not paying. And so people will criticize, well, you can't really comment on parenting because, you don't know what it's like. You don't have your own kids. I said, but no, that's exactly why I can, because I'm an observer at this point. I could watch it. I can see that you're totally ignoring your kid, and your kid is now being a nightmare in the food court. There was one day where, again, I was at the same food court, and there was 2, I called them teen moms because they were very young. Both they were doing their selfies with their duck lips, and they were texting each other and whatever. I don't know if they were posting on social media or whatever they were doing. And one of they each, of course, had strollers because, why not? And now that I'm thinking about it, they weren't in school that day either, so whatever. Anyway, so they're not paying attention, and all of a sudden, one of their little toddlers or whoever first started out just kind of walking around the table and, kind of going in circles. And I'm just sitting there going, what? Like, your kid is just screaming for attention. How are you not paying attention to the kid? Like, come on. And then at one point, the kid kind of wanders off. I wasn't paying attention because I was doing work. I was on my phone, but I was doing some work. And all of a sudden, this older woman comes by. She walks by me, and she's carrying the kid and says to the girls, oh, he was just standing on the table. So here's the thing. Two moms are there. Not one of them noticed that the kid had walked away and was standing on a table. That could have easily been a kidnapping. That could easily have been a fall and cracked the head, just like the kid at the place I told you. Or just anything. Anything. Kid goes missing, kidnapping, fall and hurt yourself. That you were so consumed with your phone that somebody had to get your kid off the table and bring them over to you. Lucky that was a good person who was honest and was kind of like, oh, you know. And there's a part of me though that also, this is where people are, and now we'll get hate mail for this one, but it kind of like, you almost kind of want something to happen to the kid. The parents will learn, maybe. I don't know. You'd think. I would think, right? You almost kind of want. Maybe there's an injury, maybe, because I've seen that too, where, you know, the mom or whoever isn't paying attention, all of a sudden the kid falls off the chair in the restaurant. It's like, well, maybe if you would have noticed that your kid was not sitting still and was being a little jerk, it wouldn't have come to this. Again, I just flip back into my childhood where your mom was not going to tell you 3 times to sit still. It just was not happening. So when I wrote my newspaper column about kids and pets should be scared of you, that was sort of cruel. I said scared and being fearful are 2 different things, right? When you reprimand a dog who is either not listening or, you know, getting in the way or, you know, like begging for food when you're sitting there and eating, they're not fearful. Like, fearful is more of a long-term feeling, right? I'll tell them no, and they're going to go and put their head down and walk away or lay down or something like that. They're not living in fear, though, of me. Just like I was scared of my parents. By that, I mean, like, pissing them off, making them upset, betraying them, not listening to them. You know, that I was scared to anger them, scared to get on their bad side, right? And that's just, that's how it was. We got the wooden spoon. Again, I'm not condoning, abuse, but, you know, my brothers and I, if we got the wooden spoon, we got a spanking, whatever. None of us has ever been arrested. None of us has ever, committed crime. We're not drug dealers. We've never done this. We've never done that. We turned out okay. And you know what? Here's the thing. Almost everybody that's in my circle of friends that's my age, or colleagues or whoever, we all kind of turned out the same way, us in our 40s. So, you know what? We all had the same experience with parents. We either got the spanking or we were just absolutely, scared to death to do something wrong. And there was nothing wrong with that, right? Because that was authority. And just like police, not that we had any reason to be fearful of them, but again, you didn't want to see a, police officer coming up to you. You'd be scared shitless. Uh-oh, what did I do? What does he want? What happened? And so the fact that I go back to the airport and I'm sitting here going, we're at customs. Like, this is a guy who's got a gun. He's a federal agent. He's whatever. And this kid is still not even listening to someone like that. I would never have imagined that. I just never would have. So, yes, I mean, my dogs are scared of me in the sense that they don't want to do something wrong. And then when they know that they do, because I've taken that tone or I've pointed or I've said, I have cues that they know when they're in trouble. And then they will lay down or they will kind of try to come up and suck up to you and be good and, kind of nuzzle up to your leg or whatever if they're on the floor. And that's because they know they've done wrong. And here's the thing. They're probably not going to do it again because they know they got in trouble last time. So, did that stop my brothers and me from acting up when we were younger? Well, it stopped us from, I can't think of an example now, but I mean, we certainly weren't repeat offenders in terms of always doing this wrong, whatever it was, whether, I'm trying to think, I can't remember, like, what we would do. Why did we get spankings? I don't know why we would get spankings. I can't think of it now. We certainly were not, beaten regularly. That's not the case at all. But definitely we knew, all right, you're going to get... Yeah, they didn't spank us when we were, they certainly weren't spanking us when we were teenagers, so I'm still too young. But I do remember kind of almost being, like, chased around the coffee table by my mom because she was trying to get a hold of me, and I didn't want the spanking just because that it was going to hurt. Yeah, but when you look back at it as an adult, you can kind of go and say, yeah, I deserved it. It was not that we were just getting hit for the sake of getting hit, right? Like, we had to do something that was significantly wrong. And I'll say that, absolutely, I was spanked, but I think that helped me become a better person. I don't think it didn't. I'm not saying that I was abused. I'm not saying that it traumatized me. Well, obviously it didn't traumatize me because I can't even remember why I was getting, I don't remember what I did that caused it. So it certainly was not traumatizing. But I will credit it and say, you know what? I don't think there was anything wrong with it. I don't think so at all. Not one bit. No. At the same time, if the equivalent, or not the equivalent, but if the counterpoint to that is not disciplining them, and then they're going to act like this, maybe a little discipline at home, should be done. I never had the luxury of, hey, you're going to go on this nice charity adventure and leave the country and go to this fancy amusement place. You're damn right I would have been on my best behavior because I would have been terrified to do something wrong and then all of a sudden be told, well, Jeremy was kind of da-da-da-da while we were gone. I'd have been shitting my pants. Let me tell you. So, I don't see fear as in, I wasn't terrified. It's not like my mom's kind of got to hide and, that, I'm going to say something wrong and she's going to punch me in the face. No, it was not like that at all. And just like my dogs, they love when we come home, they're constantly on the couch cuddling up with us. They sleep on the bed every night. My dogs are not living in fear when I come in the room or when I talk to them, but absolutely when they've done something wrong, they know that there's something wrong. And what that means in our house is we ignore them, we take away their toys, we don't go for as long of a walk, there's just different cues that you give them and then they pick up and go, oh, well, if we're not walking nicely, we're not going to go on the long path for the walk, that we're only going to go halfway and then we're heading back home. And you'll know what is that on that last half on the way home, they're walking better. Because they know. Yep, they know. So, raise your kid how you want, but I would not be a proud parent if that was, yeah. And at the same time, my advice to parents is you don't listen to what your kid says. I think about it. My mom was a teacher when I was she was a teacher at our elementary school when we were going there, and then even when I was in high school, she was still at that school. So she was at the same school for like 30 years. And when she was on parent council and, all these different things as we were growing up, even though I was still a teenager and what have you, when they would have those parent-teacher conferences, even though I was a good kid, we actually just found my report card from when I was in grade 7. I had all A's and 1 C+ in science, but the rest of the report card was all A's. There was still, when you know that your parents are going to this meeting, you were... what's my teacher going to say? She's going to say that I'm bad. My brother Trevor was always talking too much, so I knew that was what his feedback would be. But even though I was a good student, because remember, my mom worked for the school. So for me, I was kind of like, and she knew, being on parent council, she knew the teachers. That was always my thing. Like, oh shit, they're going to tell my mom that I did something wrong. Right? That was kind of the fear factor there. So now, she's retired now, but my mom told me over the course of 30 years, it used to be that the parents would side with the teacher no matter what. Full stop. And sometimes, because I guess now you can bring your kids with you too, which I think is awkward, but whatever. You know what? I kind of think that that's a good idea. I want to hear the adult conversation. I want to be sitting there, because that would be embarrassing as hell to be sitting there and have the adults talking. And then my mom looking at me going, is that right? Did you? Really? Is that, really you did? Really? Well, we'll talk about that when we get home. I would be shitting. I'd be trembling. But she said in the last couple years when she was still there before she retired, she's like, nope, you've got the parents that have their kids back 100%, that they're almost arguing with the teacher now. Yep, the teacher is the enemy. My kid would never. No, he's not. Well, that's not what he says. Sorry, so you're siding with a kid rather than a trained professional adult who's got training and is responsible, for teaching and educating and all that other kind of stuff. Oh, okay, sure. And I think that's also part of why my mom got out of it. She was just like, I'm in my 60s. Why am I, going to go through this? Why am I going to have parents yelling at me in front of their kids? That just totally undermines the whole, we're the adults, we're the authority figures here. We're supposed to be teaming up to help raise this kid in a good, not raise the kid, but you know what I mean? We're the adults. We're supposed to be working together. We're the team here, not you two, you and the kid. Us, teacher, parent. We're the team here to try and mold this young, mind or, life to be a responsible citizen, somebody who, you can take to a mall and not have to worry that they're going to climb on things or jump on a table or, destroy a plant or flick somebody's bag or, really. I'd be embarrassed if I was a parent. Even as it is, when I walk my dogs, again, generally they walk fine, and the reason why they do is because I said from the very beginning, I said to my husband, we laugh at the people who have the 20-foot leash and their dog is side to side and basically in control of the walk, or the people that are being dragged down the sidewalk because I said, we laugh at them. I said, I am never going to be that. We are in control of this walk. We are in charge. So if he's pulling up ahead, nope. And he's going to now walk behind us for the next block. And wouldn't you know it, our husky knows. He absolutely does. I'll just say, get behind me. Well, that'll be stop or don't or, whatever word. And then I'll just say, behind me. And sure as shit, he's now walking about 2 or 3 feet behind us. Because he thinks that he's in the lead, right? He's a husky. So that's, that's what we're going to do. And then I'll tell him, okay, come back up. But that's just how we train them. We're in charge of our house. We're in charge on the walk. We're in charge of the car. It's us. Sorry. Dog, not happening. Not happening. So, after all this, we are way over on our time. And, when we first started the podcast, I always said, 30 minutes is our max because that's a good time. People will do, 30 minutes on the treadmill, 30 minutes, whatever. And now here we are blowing right through that. But this is how much I had to say about parenting, kids, this experience that I just had. And I want to know your thoughts. I want to hear from parents. Because I have this feeling what I'm gonna hear about is me giving the F-bomb right back to the kid. I'm fairly certain you've already typed up the email. You're just waiting for me to give you the email address. So here it is. Live, Live, at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. So if you're a parent, if you're a non-parent, what would you have done in that situation? I want to know. This is not your kid, remember. This is, you're in another country and you're supposed to be having a really fun day. And this little nightmare of a kid it's going on for well over 12, 14, 16. You're literally with this person for 24 hours straight. Literally. Airport at 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, a little bit after, maybe 2:30, and you landed at 2:30 in the morning. You were literally with this nightmare for 24 hours straight. Different if you're a parent, and, the school takes care of them for 5, 6, 7 hours of the day. No. This is, and it's not even like, okay, well, he's going to bed, so I've got 8 hours. Nope. You're literally by their side 24 hours that day. How would you have dealt with it? And how would you have dealt with your kid if the adult on the trip went and said, by the way, he had a meltdown and used the F word and whatever? How would you react to that? Would you defend your kid? Would you, what did you do to make him say that? Or would you have said, oh, okay, and then you have a talk with that child? Be honest with me, because I know half of you probably are not going to, you'd just be disappointed, and I want to know who would ground their kid. I want to know who would have a good talking to. And you know what? Maybe even you spank them after. Tell me. Be honest. Send me an email, live at jbonair.com. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Thanks for sticking it out this long, everybody. Appreciate it. And I'll be back same time, same place next week. Bye-bye for now.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real